there's going to be other players in the league like, okay, how can I play for Becky Hammon? How can I have a coach like that who empowers me to be a better point guard, to be a better teammate, to be all of these things? And I don't think she's going anywhere.
I want to get your perspective on the WNBA. You had a chance to cover the league, and just want your impressions overall on the Aces winning the title, and also the ratings has continued to go up for the league as well. More attention, more attraction, especially ever since 2020. What's kind of your impressions of the league and their momentum heading into 2023?
It has been so fun to be a part of the momentum and be able to tell the story. I feel like I've always had a passion for the WNBA, but I'm jumping in at the perfect time. Everybody else is being able to realize how great the WNBA is, how wonderful the players are. The Aces winning the championship, I couldn't be more happy. It was written on the wall. It was a perfect storm for A'ja Wilson to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and to win a championship all in one season. It kind of had to be the Aces, especially with Becky Hammon coming to the W for the first season. It just had to be them. So I was counting on them from the jump, and I'm so happy they were able to finish it out.
You mentioned Becky Hammon, and man, I was following her, especially through the season. How long do you think she stays in the WNBA with her success? I mean, eventually, a NBA team has to, pick her up, don't you think? Like, I don't think she's has a long tenure within the WNBA just because of her coaching prowess. Do you see her sticking around for a long time?
I do. I
Wow.
see her
Okay.
staying in the W. She feels like she found a home. This is the league that really made her who she was. She was able to be able to, be the shooter, the Becky Hammon, the New York Liberty, like the San Antonio Silver Stars. All of those are equivalent to Becky Hammon. And the NBA lost their chance. They tried to
Yep,
say they were going to give her a
that's
job and
true.
keep throwing her name in there. And I'm so proud of her to be like, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to go to a league where I'm appreciated and not just, putting my name in the media and saying that I'm getting these interviews just to make them look better. But she is very much deserving of a head coaching job. And she was able to prove that in the WNBA and to be able to see how the team rallied around her and how Chelsea Gray was able to really, we already knew Chelsea Gray was a dog, but then to be able to have a coach like Becky Hammon to bring out the best in her, there's going to be other players in the league like, okay, how can I play for Becky Hammon? How can I have a coach like that who empowers me to be a better point guard, to be a better teammate, to be all of these things? And I don't think she's going anywhere. I think there's a reason why she's the highest paid coach in the WNBA. And now that's only going to open doors for other coaches to get the bigger bag because she kind of set that forefront of like, I am worth this. This is what I was getting paid on the men's side. I am just as good as a coach as anybody who can come in here and do this. So she proved it. And I'm so happy for her.
Jordan, one last question for you before I pass it over to Matt. Where do you see the league in 2023? I listened to our previous interview. You were talking about just the wages of just the athletes involved with the WNBA. Do you see like progression on that front in terms of, I realize that I don't know when the collective bargaining agreement is, but do you see progression in terms of that door opening in terms of getting increased wages just based on, one, the popularity of the league increasing, and two, which means that when the rights deals go up, I mean, that's eventually that trickles down to the players as well. So do you see any progression in terms of, the players increasing their wages as well as part of the WNBA?
We just had a new collective bargaining agreement. This was around 2020, which allowed Skylar Diggins-Smith to announce her pregnancy and to be able to still get her full salary now that she's sitting out this season pregnant. So really big moves there in the latest CBA. But when it comes to wages, this offseason is a very, very important offseason in the WNBA because of the CBA and the latest one. they're kind of making the players choose between their overseas commitments and the WNBA. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a fine. You're going to get penalized if you come late to training camp due to overseas commitments. And we already know that the FIBA and the WNBA schedules, they overlap. So players are going to have to choose, do I go play in the WNBA to my commitment that I've already made and stay in the States? Or do I make a lot more money, sometimes 10 times as much as my WNBA salary to play overseas and take the fine, take the penalty? The following season, you're going to be penalized. You're going to have to sit out the whole year if you come late to training camp, I believe.
Wow.
So there's a lot of decisions that players are forced to make, and they're thinking about it. I think that, and I know we're probably going to touch on this later, but Athletes Unlimited has really created an avenue for players to be able to make a little money, be able to stay home in the US. This season is going to kick off in Dallas. It's the perfect time in the off season where they won't miss any time for the training camp. It aligns perfectly, but it's way less money than an overseas check. So players are kind of like, well, if we choose to stay and play for the WNBA, you have to pay us more, because you're now telling us that we're losing out on money for our families so we don't get penalized. So now there's this friction between the league and FIBA, and the friction between the players, and they're all going to have to make a decision. They can amend the CBA, but right now, as it stands, there is kind of that decision that players are going to have to make. So we're going to see what decision they make in the off season. Who's going to show up to training camp? Who's going to choose overseas commitments, especially if they're well into the championship and the playoffs? So it's going to be very, very interesting.
So, what is your opinion of Athletes Unlimited then? Because it almost seems like maybe a bargaining chip. The WNBA could say, hey, we have this league for you here, but at the same time, like you said, it's way less money. So do you think they might be used as a negotiation ploy almost? Like in terms of they're stuck in the middle between the players and the WNBA themselves in terms of, increasing wages. I realize Athletes Unlimited, it seems fantastic in terms of they have a TV deal with ESPN. It seems the structure has a very promising future, but do you think it could be kind of a negative in terms of the players within the league?
Well, I love Athletes Unlimited, and being able to talk to the players, they loved it too. So many players played in the offseason and had way more confidence coming into the next season. And it showed in statistics, it showed in body language, it showed in everything. And they were able to play with their peers, play with people that, they're going to be playing with on a weekly basis, daily basis in the WNBA. So it wasn't this drop off or this overseas compensation. It was W players. It also showed us just how many great players are out there that aren't on the WNBA. A WNBA team don't have WNBA contracts, which made us all say, okay, we need to expand the league because I want to see all of these people play. I think that if the WNBA is smart, they would partner with Athlete Unlimited. They would not show any bias against them. They should really work together because what they're doing is phenomenal. And Athletes Unlimited, if you're unaware, it has softball, it has volleyball, it has so many other sports where they've been able to show that the system works and that the players enjoy it. It also puts the power back in the players because they have drafts every week and they're able to be team captains and coaches. So it's just a different format. And it doesn't compete with the W at all. It's all the same players. They just play Athletes Unlimited, then they go to training camp. So if I'm the WNBA, I'm promoting it. I'm saying, hey, you're in Dallas. You're right down the street. We have a team in Dallas. Like, it just seems to work. But you are getting a lot of players who have different endorsement deals where they can stay home. You're getting players who have already been in the WNBA for a long time and they have some of that money coming from elsewhere in the off season. It doesn't leave a ton of room for rookies. It doesn't leave a ton of room for bubble players, players that aren't really starters, but they're not, getting a ton of playing time. Where do those players get in the mix? They have to go get their money overseas, or else they won't have a job. Like, they won't have their livelihood. So it just sucks that we're having to ask these players to make that decision. I guess it should just be hoop and you get paid and
Right.
you're a professional athlete and that's it. But it's all of these other, elements that are involved. So again, if I'm the WNBA, I'm partnering with Athletes Unlimited because it's been so wonderful just after 1 year.
Jordan, I have to follow up on that CBA with that being like a unique threat now overseas. It's always been this pull to get paid more overseas, and certainly nobody faults the players for going over there. To be blunt, I would choose the money myself in this situation if
Yeah.
I have to pick between playing in the WNBA or getting up to 10 times that amount, maybe more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so I guess my question is this now more of an existential threat to the WNBA that it's going to be, if you choose this, you're sitting out for the next season?
Yeah, I think they have to look in the mirror and kind of realize that when you have someone like Breanna Stewart saying, I'm not going to play.
Hmm.
Okay. That's like saying LeBron is not going to play in the NBA next season. Who's going to be in their commercials? Who's going to be She just came out with the shoe.
Yeah.
There's money at stake of market people that can be marketed and the faces of the league. That is where they should take a step back and say, okay, this isn't actually working out. There's a lot of talks of like, okay, do we adjust the dates? Can we talk with FIBA so that we work together instead of working against, so that it's not making the players choose? If you move up FIBA a little bit, a couple months, there's no overlap. If you move back the WNBA a little bit, there's no overlap. So there has to be some type of working together. But yeah, I think once some big names come into play and they say, 100,000 or 2 million.
Right.
I'm gonna pick the 2 million, and the W has nothing to say for it. We're not gonna blame them. We're gonna go watch them in the EuroLeague women. Like, that's what we have to do if we want to watch them play.
Yeah, it seems like when push comes to shove, money talks.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think there's, if you had to guess, a higher likelihood that the WNBA kind of sort of bends and compromises to what the international league is doing, or any sort of I guess strength between one side in terms of leading that compromise? I mean, you bring up the great point of your major marquee athletes threatening not to play. Of course, that would drive some momentum.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're seeing that. We're starting to see the WNBA figure out how can we bring more money in, and we are seeing them, talk about expansion teams. There is a huge TV deal that's on the table in the next couple of years. There is advertising dollars that are like, wow, okay, ratings are going up. You know, all these athletes, all these very, very famous people are talking about the playoffs. Okay, I want my ads in front of those very famous people. So we're seeing the beginning of the ball rolling of the WNBA able to bring in more money to even compete with the overseas contracts. I think that's what it has to get. I don't expect in the near future, in the next 4 years, that the WNBA is going to be able to say, okay, here's a $2 million contract, dollar for dollar for your overseas deal. Come play in the WNBA. Right now, they are betting that players are going to want to play in the WNBA for the prestige, for the honor, for the dream of playing in the best league in the world. like you said, money talks. That's only going to get you so far. That's only going to get a little bit of the way. They're starting to put the infrastructure in place to be able to say, okay, I can't offer you that 2 million, but I can offer you more. I can offer you, stay here in the off season. This is what they started to do. I believe last season they picked about 3 or 4 players. We're going to pay you to stay in the off season to travel around and market the WNBA. So they're wanting to do more offerings like that to be able to give just another option. Hey, it's not your overseas contract, but you're here in the States. Here's some more money. You're not playing basketball. You're not putting anything, wear and tear on your body. Stay, we'll pay you to do this. So I think that they're starting to build it. I think they're only going to be competitive. Near future, they're not going to be able to match those overseas contracts dollar for dollar.